It was a chilly spring morning when I first saw her. A 1965 Ford Mustang, tucked away in the corner of an old barn, forgotten and neglected. Her once iconic body lines were hidden beneath layers of dust and rust, and her faded red paint had long surrendered to time. The tires were flat, the windows cracked, and the interior looked like it had hosted a family of raccoons. But despite her sorry state, she had an undeniable presence. This was no ordinary car, this was a Mustang, the car that made America fall in love with the open road. For me, it wasn't just about restoring a classic. It was about fulfilling a childhood dream, bringing back the car I used to imagine myself driving as a kid. Getting her home was the first adventure. The tow truck driver smirked and said, "Looks like you've got your work cut out for you," as he winched her onto the flatbed. My neighbor offered a sympathetic shake of the head when he saw me guiding the car into my garage. "Midlife crisis?" he joked. I grinned and replied, "Nope, just an early retirement plan for this beauty." The initial inspection was, let's just say, sobering. The floorboards had rusted through in places, and the engine was more a sculpture of corrosion than a functional piece of machinery. But as daunting as it was, there was also a thrill in knowing I was about to embark on a journey. This car wasn't just a project, it was a time capsule, a story waiting to be retold. I started with the cleaning, and let me tell you, it was like unearthing an ancient artifact. The first blast of the pressure washer revealed patches of the original Rangoon Red paint peeking through the grime. Inside, I found all sorts of treasures: a vintage gas receipt from 1973, a cracked rearview mirror, and enough dust to fill a vacuum bag twice over. Cleaning wasn't glamorous, but it was satisfying. It was like peeling away layers of neglect to reveal glimpses of the car's former glory. The restoration process officially began with the engine. I removed it piece by piece, documenting every step like an amateur archaeologist. The carburetor was beyond saving, the belts crumbled in my hands, and the pistons looked like they'd seen more battles than a medieval knight. Rebuilding the engine was like solving a giant, greasy puzzle. There were moments of triumph, like when I managed to clean and reassemble the cylinder head without losing a single bolt, and moments of despair, like when I realized I'd installed the distributor cap backward and wondered why nothing was working. But each setback made the eventual progress all the sweeter. Next up was the bodywork. Sanding down the rust felt like trying to sculpt a masterpiece out of a weathered block of wood. It was messy, noisy, and relentless. By the end of each day, I was covered in rust dust and had forearms that would make Popeye proud. Once the surface was ready, I primed and painted her in a deep, glossy Rangoon red that practically gleamed under the garage lights. Seeing that vibrant color brought back memories of the Mustang posters I used to have on my bedroom wall. The interior was a beast of its own. The original upholstery was torn to shreds, and the dashboard looked like it had been baked in the sun for decades. I opted for a mix of authenticity and modern comfort: new black vinyl seats, a refurbished dash, and even a retro-style stereo with Bluetooth capabilities. Reupholstering the seats was an exercise in patience and precision, with a fair amount of swearing thrown in for good measure. By the time the last panel was installed, the interior felt like a welcoming time machine. The breakthrough moment came when I turned the key and heard the engine roar to life for the first time. It wasn't a perfect purr, there were still tweaks to be made, but it was a sound filled with promise. That low, rumbling growl was the car's way of saying, "I'm back." I sat behind the wheel, my hands gripping the freshly installed steering wheel, and felt a wave of pride and relief wash over me. Then came the best part, the first drive. With a mix of excitement and nervousness, I eased the Mustang out of the garage and onto the street. The engine responded smoothly, the tires gripped the pavement, and the wind rushed through the open windows. It felt like freedom, pure and simple. People turned their heads as I drove by, some giving thumbs up, others snapping pictures. A young boy on a bicycle stopped to gawk and I couldn't help but smile, remembering the little boy I once was, dreaming of this very moment. As I parked the Mustang back in the garage, I took a moment to reflect on the journey. Restoring this car wasn't just about fixing rust and replacing parts, it was about rediscovering a sense of purpose and proving to myself that I could tackle something big. This car went from being a forgotten relic to a rolling testament of what passion and perseverance can achieve. So, what's the takeaway? Restoration is more than just a hobby. It's a celebration of second chances. It's about finding beauty in the broken and having the patience to bring it back to life. And for anyone wondering if it's worth the effort, let me tell you, the first time you hit the road in a car you've restored with the engine humming and the sun shining, you'll know it absolutely is. As for me and my 1965 Mustang, we got a lot of miles left to cover and a lot of stories left to tell.